Hi and welcome to this real world Death Guard Codex review. And what I mean by real world is mainly targeted at people who are new to the hobby. I've been in the hobby for about a year now, and I definitely describe myself as still a bit of a newbie. I mean, most of this last year has been pandemic and lockdowns. I've not really been able the time to play with a variety of people. So I'm still learning, I'm still developing my skill, throwing myself completely into the hobby, love the lore, love the game, love the armies. And during 8th edition, Death Guard was definitely one of my favourite armies. So, really chuffed to hear about the new Codex, and this is my review of this. And what it's coming from is for those people that are like me, that are either just starting out with the hobby, so they've just got the bug, been with it a small amount of time, less than a year, not really focused on tournament play as well. Because a lot of the reviews you get is all about how this would perform in competitions, in games and tournaments. And actually what I'd like to focus on, and what this channel's all about, is thinking about simple Warhammer. It's how to break it down into something that the new starter can pick up and use and get and enjoy. And the Death Guard is great because they've got such interesting lore behind them, such an interesting narrative. So first of all, I'm going to assume perhaps you know a little bit about what Death Guard are and who they're about. It's not really about the background, so it's more about what this new codex is giving you. So it's kind of assuming you sort of understand what, that there are Chaos Space Marines, Nurgle and all that means. So the one of the big things that changed with this is disgusting and resilient. And that was a rule in 8th, which was amazing because you got an extra dice to roll to save rooms, and on a 5+ you shrug them. An amazing powerful rule that you could play on the tabletop. And it was an easy one to remember. It has changed, and they've kind of been changed in line with everything that's changed with 9th edition. So it's more of a modifier now. So instead of getting an extra dice, you take 1 off the damage. So because that's kind of global, it's kind of a complete swap of this, it should be easy enough to remember. And it still is powerful enough to keep the army being resilient. So a particular addition to this codex is the addition of plague companies. Now there's pages on this, and it was really exciting to hear about this idea that you can be part of a particular clay company and therefore get special abilities. Now the only problem with it is a great idea implemented in a way that's kind of tournament focused and really focused for people that are down with all the specific rules of the gameplay. I liked it because you could definitely create a narrative around it, and for your army you can create your specific army, so it's almost like a custom chapter that you can do with Space Marines. But actually what it is just a set of warlord traits, stratagems and relics. Great news for people that play with those, but to play with them you are getting straight into thinking about playing the game to its fullest rule set level. You've got command points, you're thinking about the warlord traits and relics, that's all the admin prep before a game. And if you're really playing it that way, you are probably spending quite a long time before you even play just on admin, just on prepping and how you're building your army and what you're going to take. Playing a game that's going to be quite a few hours, and the chances are you're referring back to the book all the time, you're looking at your notes, or you just forget things. So for the early starters in this, I would definitely suggest not really worrying about warlord traits, stratagems, command points. Just play the game, use the missions. So because of that, what was a great idea is kind of just lost now. You have to be battle forged to use one, and that's obviously a whole other complicated area around army building. If you just buy a few models, you just want to put them on the table, you just want to do that. But if you do that, the chances are you won't be battle forged, in which case you couldn't use a play company anyway. So for the most starters, you wouldn't be able to use them, and even if you wanted to, it just adds a whole level of complexity. It's probably not worthwhile. There's a whole section here which is just new, or the abilities, and some of them are new. So I'll go through some of these, and this is quite easy to read. There's not much here, just these 2 pages. This gives you the flavour of what the armies can do over and above just what's in the data sheet. So when you're just rolling dice and shooting or whatever, this is the things that can happen. So one of my favourite bits about this extra stuff is an idea called Contagions of Nurgle, which is a brilliant narrative way. It really fits with what you'd expect from Nurgle, the rot, disease spreading, that as the game goes on, the contagion of Nurgle's gifts spreads further and further. So the longer the game goes on, the more aura around each model other armies are affected by it, and they're affected by getting a -1 to their toughness, which is really good, which is really perfect in terms of thinking about what it means to be spreading this disease around. And actually reducing the toughness of your enemy is effective because it's going to make it easy to shoot them or attack them in melee, and it's also something that fits with the narrative. So I think it's a brilliant addition. Plague weapons still reroll 1s, which is good. So if you're used to that before, you've still got that. And it says next to your weapons whether the plague, an ability called Malicious Follies. If you're a Terminator or you're an army infantry unit that hasn't moved, then you can fire twice, which is brilliant. The other Space Marine chapters have fire twice options, and there's a deployment ability. So if you're going to play to a level of complexity where you're going to deploy and take turns to deploy, there is a thing called Teleport Strike, which is about redeploying. So it's very powerful if you're placing your armies on a board in counter or to set up your opponents in a certain way, and then you can move some of them. And essentially, there's certain units can go in. There's a few HQs and Terminators can go into Teleportarium, and basically go off the board and they come back in the next phase or another phase. There's a few HQ, Typhus, Lord of Virulence, Lord of Contagion. They can all go with the Terminators and they give them a +1 on hits. Units have changed as well. So the first one, which was always an auto-include for most armies, for most Death Guard armies, was the Foul Blightspawn. It had a brilliant type flamer, that was just really brutal, and it also had abilities which made other people fight last. The flamers had a bit of a nerf, so it's not quite as strong, but still worth it. And the fight last abilities changed from less of an aura, more nominating a single unit. It's not quite as powerful, still really good. Definitely think it's worth having a Foul Blightspawn. So you got the standard Plague Marine, now 2 wounds to match the Space Marines, so that's brilliant. Terminators have also had their wounds up to 3, so that's even better. And all the big shooty vehicles in the Death Guard have been improved from what they used to be. So the Fetid, Bloat Drone, Blight Haulers and the Plague Breast Crawlers are all a bit better, much better. So, you know, these are things you'd expect to take. And then finally, I'd like to say about this guy, Mortarion, who has been improved and is an absolute beast now. So I think he's an auto-include now in most Death Guard armies. But this guy is super strong. He's been increased to toughness 8. His contagion abilities are bigger than most others. He can, without using all the Warlord trait stuff, if you don't want to use that, because he can take 3 Warlord traits. You know, he's just a better, stronger model. And the narrative side, you know, the contagion bit, he's a better model for that as well. Now the downside of that is that you will be wanting to buy and build one. Now it's a very complicated model to build and paint. There's so much detail. I mean, it's an amazing model, but there's so much detail, so much painting. It's kind of, you need to take your time, make it worthwhile. The new Codex is brilliant. You know, the army's still strong. It's going to be one of, if not the strongest Chaos armies at the moment, because while waiting for the Codex to update all the others. So you've got that problem for most of the armies, that they've not got the 2 rooms, they've not got all the extra buffs. But, you know, really fun army to build, really fun army to paint. So I think the great models to have. This is a great Codex. I hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments. Let me know things you think I missed, things you think I should be doing. If you want any other real world reviews like this, let me know. Thank you very much.